Thank you for taking the time to our team project presentation. Our topic is on the COVID-19 pandemic effects on organizations. We are good one. And today we will be going over COVID-19's impact on the organizations, as well as the theories that apply to this event and actions from an OB perspective that an organization can take to improve in the future. The incident our group decided to examine is the COVID-19 pandemic due to its all-around disruptive effects. Here is the timeline of the most critical events related to the virus in the US specifically.
COVID-19 has a huge impact on both organizations and people. For example, many businesses are operating at reduced capacity. Many organizations are transitioning to work from home format. Also, many companies are going out of business. Some big companies like Lowe and Taylor and JCPenney went bankruptcy. For the people, their daily routine has been changed. They work at home and can no longer participate in their normal day-to-day activities. Unemployment rate of 14.7% is reported in April, which is the highest in the 21st century in the US. Also, according to a research done by Kaiser Family Foundation in July, 53% of adult Americans feel their mental health had been negatively impacted by the pandemic. Here are the three theories will be used for analyzing COVID-19 pandemic effects on organizations.
The textbook identifies four factors that are responsible for performance. These are ability, role perceptions, performance environment, and motivation. For the sake of this presentation, we will only be focusing on motivation, as this was the only factor that was significantly changed as a result of the pandemic. A decrease in employee morale from the pandemic, which can specifically trace back to feelings of isolation and dissatisfaction, has ultimately led to decreased motivation. Potential distractors for those who work from home, such as televisions and food, also could have a negative effect on motivation, which results in lower productivity and performance. With the COVID COVID-19 pandemic, all five of Maslow's needs have been negatively impacted. For example, the deadliness of the virus could cause someone to feel their need for safety and security is not being properly fulfilled. Lost wages from layoffs harms one's physiological and survival needs. Prolonged periods of isolation and quarantine and working from home are resulting in a lack of fulfillment for one's social needs. The lack of attention from peers can leave one lacking a sense of accomplishment, which is detrimental to their esteem. And lastly, the limitations caused by the pandemic means that people aren't feeling like they have reached their full potential, resulting in a lack of feeling self-actualized.
Topic related to COVID-19 and the organization's leadership, which definition can be found on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The leadership process consists of context, which in this scenario is operating during a pandemic, followers, which are the employees who may be disappointed with the way the firm is operating during COVID or not as focused on the job, and the leaders, which are the managers that must find the delicate balance between satisfying the group maintenance needs and accomplishing the performance objectives of the organization. To combat this challenge, managers should consider the leader-member exchange theory, which suggests that the leadership process consists of the relationships between leader and follower and varies considerably depending on the context. Managers must recognize that the effects of COVID are industry-specific and react accordingly. For example, office workers that are mandated to work from home may suffer from isolation, and managers must use motivation tactics to boost positivity and morale. Contrastingly, authority figures in the healthcare industry may use appraisal and reward strategies to recognize the work of doctors, nurses, and many others who are risking their lives. Lastly, COVID-19 has increased the stress levels of employees across the board. Known as the general adaptation syndrome, the first stage is alarm and occurs when the mind detects stress and induces a physical response. In our scenario, the alarm could occur when an employee receives a notice of furlough due to the pandemic. The second stage is resistance, which attempts to recover from the effects of alarm. If successful, the individual returns to its normal state. However, if not, the body reaches a state of exhaustion and deals with complications including high blood pressure, ulcers, fatigue, or tension. Work-related stress can be found in many forms, and managers face the additional stressors of being in a position of authority. An example of how COVID has influenced the typical manager stressors is increased role ambiguity and conflict, since many are unsure of what their job duties now consist of, and working remotely often results in work-life conflict or integration. They are also presented with new, difficult decision-making tasks, such as the layoff or furlough of staff. Recently, the chairman of Disney Parks reportedly laid off an additional 4,000 employees on top of the 28,000 announced earlier this year.
Actions. Organizations should create new and revised emergency work plans. The emergency work plan should focus on ensuring that employees are able to operate remotely in the case of a similar disaster. Organizations should also invest in employee development through training. The training will ensure employees are prepared and able to operate remotely. It will also instill confidence and reduce stress for employees. Organizations should focus on investing in new resources. These investments should be in platforms that enable a virtual workplace. Finally, organizations should create social and team bonding events, creating a more team-like environment. Companies should also look into implementing EAPs. EAPs are employee assistance programs, and it's a service provided by employers to help workers maintain their well-being that involves confidential assessments and short-term counseling. These programs are supportive, voluntary, effective, and confidential. So some advantages of EAPs are they reduce stress and anxiety for those and also provide motivation, help, and counseling to employees. They also increase employee satisfaction with firms who value mental health and employee welfare.
To conclude, this slide represents the key takeaways of this presentation, which includes how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected organizations' operations around the world and how OB theories can be applied to combat these issues.
Finally, we would like to open the floor to any questions.